I titled Working with a Failure-Based Workflow that I've been pointed out that I forgot to put in a hyphen, and I've used work twice in the title. So we're off to a great start of failure right up there. As Nell said, I'm Marteinsson. I'm a sound designer at Play Entertainment. I've been doing game audio since 2003. I started out in EA doing NHL. Then I went freelance. Then I joined Play Entertainment, and I did a whole bunch of games at Play Entertainment. The latest one is I'm mostly doing Hot Lava. All of the sound designers are actually involved in all of the games we do. And on top of that, I also co-host a podcast called Weird Cats Indie Game Audio with Gordon LeBladry from Michelle and Pit Audio, who might be here. And I co-host a Twitch stream with Kevin Regney from Power Up Audio called Real Talk.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Ben.
Plug. Where we review reels from aspiring audio people. And then I also organize CarouselCon, which is a meetup during GDC, and Audio Bash, which is another audio gathering. So I do a lot of stuff. So what exactly is this talk about? It's about the small failures and building those into your workflow so that you're taking risks, because the best, well, don't touch that. Another fail right there. The best stuff comes from having some sort of risk of failure. There's tons of safe routes that you can take, but if you put yourself out on a limb, then that's where the most interesting things are going to come from. And the way I like to work it into my workflow is to make an effort to scale it and make it so that while there's a risk, you've got a fallback plan. So that way you're more apt to take the craziest experiment you can think of when you know, like, yeah, in my back pocket I've got this other way of doing stuff that I know worked on another game, and I can do that, but I'm going to try this more interesting thing first. So I'm a sound designer, so this is all examples are going to be sound-based, but should work for anybody. So in general, this is, have that safe fallback, work quickly and in a way that you just need enough to prove out this crazy new concept you've got. So, you've got a crazy new concept, it's going to take you 5 days to do it. Well, figure out if you can break that up into chunks and evaluate at every step of the way if that's going to work, and abandon ship as soon as it starts to fail. Go out on a limb, but have that safety net of some kind to fall back on. Let's get into some examples. Don't Starve's creatures. They become, I would say, quite well known, an integral part of the game of how they sound and how players connect with the personality of the creatures. When I started out, I was just doing sort of traditional creature sound design, using lots of animal sounds, and there was lions everywhere, dogs, and that was fine, but I knew that I wanted to do something more, and the game needed something more. And I started to recognize how much I could do with my own voice, like Em was saying in her talk, that she used her voice for a whole ton of stuff in A Night in the Woods. Getting that personality into creatures, your voice is what brings that. So one of the first ones I really came to think about this and experiment with was the gobbler. Does everybody know what the gobbler is?
What's it sound like?
We'll get to that. The gobbler is like a person-sized turkey creature that jumps out of bushes and steals your stuff and runs away. He's incredibly annoying and everyone hates him. We're doing turkey creature. I started collecting my turkey samples, sourcing from libraries and building this up, and I use turkey samples. They're funny sounding all on their own, that's good. And then one day I was looking at Alex's computer, watching the animation. We'd gotten to a point where we had actual animation 3C, and I was watching it. I was just looking at it, and I just started going, I'm like, that's it. okay, I'm gonna give myself 2 days. I'm gonna block out 2 days of my schedule that are just Turkey Man voice experiments. So I had a sense that this could work, but I didn't really know if it would. This was a risk, and I definitely had the potential for failure on this. And I had to fall back up. Well, I can always just go to my turkey samples. Like, they'll work, but they're not going to be as fun and interesting. So I spent a day making those dumb sounds into a microphone.
What dumb sounds?
And then I spent a whole day editing those and editing them into the chunks that I needed. And because I knew what the creature could do, I could put different personifications into the weird, stupid little thing of, them getting hurt. You're not going to get a turkey sample that's dying. So that one worked, but I had to take that risk of committing the time to doing it and getting it all the way into game before I was really sure about it. So that one didn't fail, thankfully. That one worked. Now, the Don't Starve voices, this was even a bigger risk. Because I knew what we didn't want to do, I knew what we had to do, and I had no second idea of what we were going to do if it didn't work. I knew we couldn't use real voices for the players. Because of the way the game was being written and designed, the way lines were coming in, there was no way it was going to be cost effective to get real actors to come in like weekly and re-record lines and then edit them and get them in the game. And it was just like, it's not going to happen. Coming off of Mark of the Ninja, that I worked on with Nels, I was very intimately aware of how much speech takes. So that was like in my mind, don't do this again. So I got inspired by the adults in Peanuts cartoons and the Peter and the Wolf story and piece of music where it's a kid's story that has an orchestral accompaniment where all the instruments represent people in the story. So there is an instrument set for the wolf, and there is an instrument set for Peter and the different animals and everything. So as the story is being told, the instruments tell the story at the same time. So I had this idea, like, okay, instruments. You can use instruments. The way I broke it up was, I'll do one. We got like 8 players, I'll do one. See if that works. Same thing, booked out a couple of days, did a whole bunch of recording, did a whole bunch of editing, put it in, hooked it up to one, and we were like, yeah, okay, this is weird, but I think it'll work. Let's do some more. So we just added some more, and then the hard part then was finding what does Wendy sound like? What instrument represents Wendy? And it works, so we're still not failing. But we still have always had the risk of these failing every single time. And this was kind of the worst one in that, I say it again, I had no idea what I was going to do if this didn't work. But we took the experiment, we took the risk. This has inspired voice work in Oxygen Not Included, one of our newer games, which then that work inspired my voice work in yet another game. So this risk is paying off in not just this game, but games down the line, because it's establishing like, okay, this is a new way we can do it, and this will work, and we've got some parameters, and now we can try and stretch them into different ways as well. We've got a baseline to start from, but it all started from taking that first risk of potentially having it all blow up in our face. Okay, this you get to hear some stuff. Everybody played Invisible Ink? Some people, cool. There is Incognita is a computer character in the game. I knew I wanted a really unique computer voice for her. I knew what the traditional fallbacks would be. I can do ring modulation and pitching and chorusing, all that stuff, make it sound like a Dalek, and that'd be fine. I was inspired on this by vocal production techniques from music. I came from a music background. There's a lot of stacking of background vocals, so you get multiple of the same voice that are all just slightly off. So I came up with the idea I'm going to record every line 3 times without listening back to just 3 times in a row by the actors. And then I'm going to stack them all up, and then I'm going to put effects on everything. But even just stacked up, you get some effect going on without doing anything.
Personality matrix integrity critical.
That's one line all by itself.
Personality matrix integrity critical.
That's stacked with a tiny bit of effects. It's already sounding computer.
Personality matrix integrity critical.
And that's the final thing that ended up the game because I put even more processing on it. So that worked. But in that experiment, what we did find was this was an incredibly labor-intensive way to do stuff. Every line was recorded, took 3 times as long to record. It takes 3 times as long to edit. The processing takes easily twice as long. So when I had to decide if this failed or succeeded, if we were going to move forward with this, I had to evaluate, do I have the time to do this? Thankfully I did, so we could go through with this. And hey, we won again. Which led to Oxygen not included had a voice. It also had a computer. I was like, well, we're doing a computer voice game. We can't just do the same thing we did last time. We gotta make it better. So I had the idea of let's do 2 voices, 2 actors, and stack 4 lines, because that's more. It's gonna be better, it's more. So, with this machine, sapiens can dress their meat in a myriad of functional and immersively form-concealing ways. That was Emmett, one of our people who's a voice actor. He did the lines, and then I attempted to do the lines along with listening to what he was doing.
With this machine, sapiens can dress their meat in a myriad of functional and immersively form-concealing ways.
It was weird. It was really hard to do, and by itself sounds nuts. And then we stacked them up. With this machine, sapiens can dress their meat in a myriad of functional and immersively form-concealing ways. You can start to see where it's going, and then we put a whole bunch of processing on it. With this machine, sapiens can dress their meat in a myriad of functional and immersively form-concealing ways. So that's cool. That sounds fine. But it doesn't necessarily sound any better than what we did on Oxygen, and arguably takes 5 times the effort. Because we've doubled the actors, we've doubled the lines, the editing gets even crazier. So this failed because we were just like, this is like, I don't know, 10% better, but 5 times the investment in, effort. So that failed. And then the whole voice got cut from the game anyways. But we wouldn't have known how far we could take that style of processing until we did it. And we didn't do like all the lines in the game. We did it just a handful. We did a couple hours, like an hour of recording with Emmett and an hour of recording with me. So we took a small chunk to test out the process and see, could we get this to not fail? And then we can evaluate, whether or not it's going to work. But there is no way we would have known this wouldn't have worked unless we did it. Now we'll get into Hot Lava, game I'm working most on right now. It's got lava, surprise, surprise. A lot of lava. So I knew I need lava sounds. Well, I don't have access to a volcano, and that probably actually doesn't sound what we think it sounds like. Most sound is not what you think it sounds like. So I booked off a day to record at home. I bought a whole bunch of stuff to boil in a pot. I boiled water and tomato sauce and Jell-O and oatmeal, and I put flour in Jell-O and some other stuff that I can't remember. I probably recorded 7 or 9 different things boiling in a pot at various amounts of boil. Where the kind of experiment of failure comes into this is that I only used 3 of those things. I used the tomato sauce, the oatmeal, and the water. The rest of it didn't work. But I didn't know that it wouldn't work until I had recorded it, had started to edit it, and start to build up. So like half the day failed, but I had to do all of it to figure out what worked. And that happens a lot in sound with recording stuff. You have to record it to find out if it's going to be. You've got these crazy ideas, and you just don't know. Hot lava speech. We're back to doing real speech. So excited. This is an ongoing process, and I would say right now, the speech is in this constant state of both winning and failing all at once. And we always have to, I find, when you're building a speech system, you have to overscope it. You have to think of every possible thing you could possibly say. and put all of it in. And then you play the game. I said in earlier talks, you gotta play the game. You gotta play the game to find out what actually works. So once you've got it in, then you start to be like, oh, well, that gets called 10 million times. That's so annoying. Or we're gonna cut it, or we need more lines for it, or that thing, those 10 lines I made would never get called ever. The situation never actually happens. So it's this constant cycle of setting yourself up to fail on what you put into the game, and then like going back to one. You put it into the game, you record it, put it into the game, test it out, okay, cut, add, back to one. So it's just this constant state of winning and failing on a small level of like almost event by event. And what I do to help that is I do as much as I can with my own voice, because I'm an okay voice actor. I've been in a couple of games as guards, that's my range. So I can be used as a test because I find it's really good to have as close as you can get to a professional shipping quality, because then you're judging it just on what, does this work and work with the world, and not like, listen past the fact that it sounds really bad. So that's how I do it. Like, I'll do it myself, we'll figure out what works, and then we'll bring in the professional voice actors. But even if you are bringing in professional voice actors, you're paying for stuff, you cannot get hung up on, I paid for this, so it needs to go in the game. You will need to, when you're designing a speech system, throw out and consider a failure as huge parts of stuff you record, because it doesn't work, or it never gets called, or it's annoying, or the character changes and the voice doesn't match the character anymore. Tons of stuff happen that you will throw out a massive amount of stuff. That's okay. And then there's lots of smaller failures, like you might hit yourself in the head with a ruler. That recording session that came from, actually, we threw out the entire thing. We spent a couple of hours spinning things to try and get whooshy sounds, and none of it worked. And the only way we do it was just to go down that path of like, right, we're gonna do it. We're gonna record all these things. We gathered up all this stuff and we recorded it, and then I hit myself in the head, and there's even more profanity in the outtakes past that. And then even on a, like, once you've made stuff, once you've got past these, like, you did a whole bunch of failing when you did your recording, your asset building. Once you get into the game, it's still, there's so much stuff that on a singular sound level just fails all the time, and that's okay. Like, that's sometimes the best way to learn. Which I'm probably the only one in the room now that has a Kings of Convenience song stuck in their head. Yeah, nobody got it. Once the sound is in the game, that's when you truly learn whether it works, what it's doing, what it needs to do, and that when that sound fails, you need to iterate on it, replace it, or do something else with it. That's a good thing. You know, learning from those failures you're going on is great. And then sometimes you melt a microphone. Done that too. So there's no sample of that. It doesn't sound like anything. It's just broke. I was recording, but now I know how long I can put a microphone over top of a boiling teapot before it dies. Not long. And that's pretty much my talk. That's me on Twitter. That's my email. Got any questions?